Thanks for joining. Hey, Sally.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so good. Can I show you my view?
Yes, please.
Isn't that
Whoa,
just so beautiful? And so I'm in Lake Tahoe, and that's just kind of like outside the hotel. So I can only imagine what the rest of the day is going to bring.
that's cool. That's very cool. Are you warm enough?
I got a jacket, so I'm fine. It's brisk. It's about 35, probably 39, but it's
Ooh.
fine. Hi, Natalie. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It's morning for me. It's 9 a.m. here in California, and it's noon for you, right, Sally?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. So, a couple of housekeeping things. If you have questions as we're going, you can type them in the comments, but it's hard for us to keep track. So, try to put them in the question bubble. If you look to the bottom right, there's a little comment bubble with a question mark in it. So, put your question there, and then we for sure won't miss it. And then also, if I need to, I'm waiting for a call from the meat department at the grocery store to see if they can get me some fat trimmings. So if they call me, I'm going to sneak away for just a minute and have my friend text the other girls to stop by and grab it. So don't worry, there's no emergency. So any
Got
other
it.
announcements, Sally?
No, no. I mean, I did make it to Wonderland this week, so that's a good thing.
That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so happy
Thank
for you.
you. But
So what we, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I'm really excited to dive into all of this because it's been a ongoing thing for many people, so I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Hi, Raymond. Thank you for joining us.
Hey.
Um, so, what we had kind of planned on talking about today, so that we have a little bit of structure, is what we've tried in the past to try to help our binge eating, why it didn't work, kind of what we realized we needed to do to actually have some success. And then I'd actually love to talk a little bit about something you just posted on minutes ago about kind of triggering carnivore foods like brown
Yeah,
butter bites and meat bars and stuff. So if we have time, let's definitely dive into that.
absolutely.
Okay. So just to refresh memories, as far as my background, I've been binging since I was about 15, so 20 plus years. And definitely was a result of restricting my calories too much. And then, my body didn't want to die. So it was creating urges for me to binge. So I feel like over the years, I was just really deepening that habit for various reasons because of a blood sugar insulin issue and because, or, just that spike constantly. And then also because of dopamine and just all those reasons that biologically you might create some binge problems. For me, I don't think it was ever a particularly emotional thing. And so a lot of the things that I tried to treat my binging were treating that emotional side. So, I mean, I saw counselors a couple of times, and, they wanted to get into like past traumas and stuff. I certainly think there's value there, but it didn't help me with my binge eating. And I also listened to multiple podcasts and read multiple books about overeating and binging. And none of that really ever helped me either. I even took a couple courses, like in depth, expensive courses. One was called Beating Binge Eating, and I'm sure it's great for some people, but it was a lot of like journaling your feelings about food and that kind of thing. And I just did not find that helpful. In fact, it probably just created more on my plate and made me a little more stressed, and then like almost more likely to binge because I spent all this money and time and then I messed up, so I might as well just keep messing up. It was kind of more like that. So we can dig more into that, but let's kind of hear a little bit more from you, Sally.
Yeah, I was more on the emotional side. A lot of stuff going on. And for me, eating, the wrong stuff, just literally numbed me. It buried my emotions, and so I didn't have to feel them. But it only lasts for a little while, and then of course you have to have more, to keep burying them. And I didn't do so much of that as a kid, I think, because as a child I blocked out a lot of stuff. Didn't even know it. Didn't even know it until I was like in my 20s. And then boom, everything's back in my head, So that was a little tough. But the constant trying to lose weight, even when I really didn't have weight to lose, but seeing myself that way, because I have a weird body dysmorphia thing, and I still do, and I'm working on that. But those things would trigger me to eat. It's like, and so then of course I'd have to diet or fast. I could fast for days. I could fast for an entire week, and I'd be like, woohoo, I'm great. And of course, as soon as you break the fast, even the slightest bit of food, then you're starving, and you go and binge it all again. And so my entire adulthood was like that. It was dieting and binging as almost like a punishment, not binge, sorry, fasting as a punishment to everything I had just eaten, and it became this cycle. And there were times when I just literally had to stop, just like stop all of it. No dieting, no fasting, no nothing. Just stop the roller coaster in my head, and then it would work, but I still wasn't eating the right foods. I wasn't where I wanted to be, but it stopped my mind from that circle, the never ending circle of, fasting, then binging, then fasting, then binging, you know. But yeah, it's, I probably everyone here can relate to mine or your story and figure out what didn't work, what did work, and we'll go from there. I think you're
Yeah.
frozen.
Oh no. Am I still
Just a
frozen?
little.
Is it better now?
Nope, nope, a little.
Okay, you keep going until I'm unfrozen.
No, you're unfrozen right now.
Okay. Then
Run with it.
if I get frozen again, go like this, and then I'll just shut up. But I have so much to say about what you said. So I definitely, certainly in my adulthood, also the same thing of like a diet and then binge cycle, diet and binge. And so I would also get to the point where it's like, okay, I can't do this. But then when I would stop dieting and stop binging, I was still definitely overeating. And I was still, at a heavier point and with health issues created from those binges I'd had. And so I would still desire to lose weight and eat the healthy foods. And so then I would just get right back on this diet again. Um, and so for me, it was my binging was a response to that, to the restriction, or a response to, ooh, there's a special occasion, like I'm on vacation, or special occasion like somebody brought donuts into the office, that's a super special occasion. And so then the second I would have one taste of something sweet, it was just over, at least for the remainder of that day, if not that week, that month, that year. It's always like start tomorrow, start next week, start whatever. But so just 10 minutes ago something happened that I feel like I couldn't be happier. So I'm on this trip with 4 other girls, and they all just eat standard American diet, and they're all pretty healthy. But one of the girls brought out a couple Ziploc bags of little fun-sized Twix bars and Snicker bars, and I don't even know what other candy, but just hundreds of little candy bars. And she was like, "I know you're not eating this, so I won't even put it out. I'll put it where you can't see it." And truly, I could say, it is no problem. You put it wherever. It is not tempting to me. I literally can see it now as poison. It isn't. There's no chance I would even touch it. And before, a year ago, before I was carnivore, I would be like, oh, I'll just have one. And, one would turn into 200. And then I would make a way to get to the grocery store without anybody knowing so I could get more. And then I would want to get ice cream, and, I would just be sick. And then I wouldn't even get to enjoy this beautiful vacation I'm on because I would be struggling mentally and physically and just hiding myself all the time so nobody knew I was sneaking food. So I just feel like these chains have been broken, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I know. I work in a school, high school, and it's a technical school. So for 4 or 5 years, I was with my one-to-one student in graphic design. Now, across the hall from graphic design is culinary. And so they have a little kitchen and little restaurant, and people would go. But at the end of the week, any of the leftover pastries, which are absolutely phenomenal, they would bring in an entire box. And I mean, it was really sad how I would have one, and then I would sneak another one, like no one's seeing me, take two, and then no one's looking, and I'd take three more, put them in my purse to take home, and then try and sneak another one. It just depended how much we're in there. And it was just, I think about the things I used to do like that. And it's like, it's so bad. If a student were doing that, would be like, no, these are for everybody, but I would be sneaking them and trying to bring them home. And then not only that, I would go back probably on Monday, because this is usually a Friday. I'd go back in to there and I'd look at all they had available, and I would buy another great big box to bring home, and none of that. None of that. I mean, I'm in a classroom that cooks, and the next ABA room over, they cook, and they're sharing stuff, and there's food everywhere. And I'm not having any of it.
Yeah.
It's such a freedom that you can't, it's really hard to describe until you're there. But I just, everyone can get there, and I want that for them.
Do you live alone?
Yes.
Me too. And so I think for binge eaters, that can be a bit of a troublesome thing, because you can easily buy something and then take it home. And I mean, I would eat it all in a day anyway. It's not like it was sitting around. But having some support, or even just somebody there to sort of be able to see what you're doing when you're humiliating yourself, I think can help. So for those that live alone, or just they don't feel like they have any support, joining, following people like us, other carnivores, other people who've overcome binge eating on Instagram can be super helpful. Also, Sally and I created a Facebook group. It's called Binge No More on Carnivore. We have 30 something members right now. So if you're needing a place to get some support, that would be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. We already have, what is it, like 35 members in there now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like why the previous things we tried didn't help with our binging, for me specifically, the reason why is eating the sugar was creating the urge to binge. And so I had to completely just eliminate sugar. Now, I had no idea. That seemed so obvious. And I actually did try to eliminate sugar at one point, but it was more like I'm no longer eating sweets. I was still eating, there's a bug out here. I was still eating fruit and foods that had some sugar in them, just not like obvious candies and pastries and stuff. And I did cut those things out sometimes for a couple months, but I mean, I just couldn't stick to it. I would just keep coming back to it. So when I went carnivore, completely unrelated to my binging, I was no longer having any of that. And Sally and I will get into this, but we both actually went carnivore at one point, sort of failed basically, for some reasons we now can understand in retrospect, and became binge eaters again, and then now have consistently stayed non-binging. So we'll get into that. But the bottom line for me is I had to get rid of the sugar. There was just no other option. And maybe now, almost a year later, I could add it back in. But like, why would I? Why would I even want to play with that fire? I don't crave it. I don't need it. I'm thriving without it. So what about you, Sally? Would you say it was the elimination of sugar that was the problem before, or something else?
It was basically sweet. I joined a group on Facebook called Sugar Addiction Support Group, I think it is. One of the best moves I ever made at the time. And they made me understand it's not a sugar addiction as much. I mean, physically it is, but it's more mentally, it's a sweet addiction. And I hadn't quite understood that. And so even when I did go carnivore, to get rid of the Hashimoto, and, that was my goal, I hadn't quite let go of that. It was like February of 21, and I still had it in my mind, like the fall. The fall was, oh my God, my mom and I started talking in September. Okay, what's the menu for Thanksgiving? We would go on and on about these things. And I can only imagine she misses it, because we don't have that kind of connection going on anymore. But I hadn't quite let go, and I had pickles and cheddar and stuff for the first like 6-7 months. And then somewhere in that summer, I allowed sweeteners in, and I didn't let them go. I was recreating things. That was a big problem with all the other diets, is I was recreating, making everything sugar free, thinking, well, I'm not having sugar and there's no calories or whatever, or it's low in calories, and it just perpetuates the problem, you know. And so that summer rolled into early fall, and it was right around then when I joined the Steak and Butter Gang. And Coach Udek, she's not dumb. I tried. I'm like, I can't tell her what I'm doing. I can't tell her what I'm doing. But she talked to me all the way through the fall. And it wasn't until I went to like the Gilmore Girls Fest last year. That's why this year was crucial for me when I went. Last year, I lost it. I told my daughter, I said, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry. As long as I don't buy candy, if I don't go in a store and buy candy. And she's like, uh-huh, but you're eating a brownie, you know? And I'm like, I'm good. It's just here. By the end of that weekend, I was in a candy store buying a crap load of candy and brought it home. And that was mid-October. I binged all the way through January 1st, sorry. And then because I started a contest at school, I was like, I'm going to look like an idiot if I don't do something. So I jumped in. And I'm telling you, carnivore is the only thing I've ever been able to jump back into like that, because there's no limits. You jump in and you eat and you eat and you eat if you need to. And when I jumped in, it was a thing where my daughter told me and I told me, it was like, you really can never have sugar again, ever. Ever. And I made that decision then. And that was January of this year, January 1st. And that changed everything. When I knew it was no longer an option, I was no longer going to touch it. And everything changed from that point forward. And now it's like mentally, because you're in the same place I am, it's like we can look at things and be like, okay, they're there, but I don't want them. I'm not going to go through that mental process of, ooh, what is it going to taste like in my mouth, you know? Because it's like, if you do that, you let your mind go there, that's it. You're done. You're off on a bender. So yeah, it was a roundabout way of getting to that point. But yeah, getting rid of anything sweet. Anything sweet.
Yeah. It's not just the sugar. That's a great point. It's anything sweet.
Yeah.
A couple comments. Remember, if anyone has questions, please put them in the question box. But I did catch a couple comments. Pamela says it's easier for her to be carnivore living alone because most people she knows think she's too extreme. And I agree. Living alone, it's like it helps because you can do your weird stuff and nobody knows. But it also can be a hindrance if you're still struggling, especially with binging, because no one's there to know. So yeah, it's not all negative. It's not all positive. It's a little bit of both. And then Jaylyn for Kids said she can relate to everything we're both saying, which is precisely why we're doing this, because we understand. It's like when you hear the words people are saying and you're like, that is exactly me. But there just doesn't seem to be a lot of outlets for that. So we're doing these lives. We're going to do more in the future, and then our Facebook group, because it just feels like an underserved group anyway.
Yeah.
And then I think we're caught up there. So you already kind of went into this of like, I think when you went carnivore, but then you were still allowing some sweets, like at the Gilmore Girls conference, right? That was while you were first carnivore. Is that correct?
Well, I had been carnivore since February, and this was October. Now, the sweets entered in somewhere in the summer, but the sweets led to just losing it eventually. Yeah.
Okay, so my story is a bit similar. I very first started carnivore in December of 2020. And that was at the height of my skin just being crazy. If you've seen my Instagram page, maybe you've seen it. But I mean, it was crazy, cuckoo. And so I was desperate to do anything. And so I just learned about the carnivore diet, and I was approaching it as sort of a temporary, like a elimination diet that I would eventually start adding things back in. And so after a couple months, when I started feeling pretty good and my skin was a whole lot better, I started like, ooh, maybe I could add a few things in. But of course, the things I added weren't like blueberries. They were chocolate chip cookies and alcohol. And so allowing myself to get those tastes again, I mean, all those urges came back. I started binging again. So then I was either 100% carnivore or 100% Cookie Monster. And I was just gaining weight like crazy, feeling terrible. A lot of people knew I was a carnivore, so then they could see me not thriving, gaining weight, feeling terrible, cheating on my diet. And so after a few months of that, I just had to completely quit, like we were talking about earlier on this live. Like I couldn't just keep doing that. So I just quit. And by quit, I mean I quit carnivore too. And so a few months went by, and I was really pretty meat based, but I at least wasn't doing quite as badly as I'd been doing. I mean, my weight got to the highest it's ever been, which uh, I, I guess if people want to know the details, I can share that. But my weight did get the highest, but I was feeling slightly better since I wasn't binging as much. But then around February 9th of this year is when I went completely carnivore, because I could look back with these fresh eyes to say, when I was really carnivore, that is when I felt the best. I think that I actually can do that forever. I don't need it to be an elimination diet. That's the diet I want to be on. And so my mindset was, now these other things are not food to me. Sugar, sweeteners, anything sweet, that is not even food to me. I'm not going to cheat at all. There's no, can I have a taste? There's no, let me just see if I can tolerate this now. That is out of the question. And so changing my mind in that way completely, it's like it completely freed me. By restricting myself, I freed myself. And so I have not had one binge in almost a year. I very rarely get urges. Sometimes if I'm like in line at an ice cream store for an hour because I'm getting ice cream for my nieces and I'm just sitting there watching the ice cream, it'll kind of cross my mind. But I mean, like I said, I can just have Twix bars in the kitchen and it's not an issue at all. So I feel like I'm cured, honestly, though I don't know if that would be the case if I started allowing things back in. So I just won't.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the time to mention the butter bars or the butter, the brown butter. I did have a time, keep that thought. I did have a time over the summer that I had talked to the coaches about on the Steak and Butter Gang. I went into a grocery store, and everyone had been talking about getting the canned margaritas or whatever it is, the frozen things. And I'm not sure why my mind went there, because I don't drink. I don't even like the taste of alcohol. But my brain went there. And only the thing is, I started saying that I just want butterscotch schnapps. And my daughter looked at me, she goes, oh no, nope, not happening on my watch. And I didn't realize it at the time that I really wasn't looking for an alcoholic drink because I don't like it. But that was the one I would have like way back when, around the holidays or whatnot, because it's so sweet. It's like dessert. And it was like, I swear to God, my sugar mind was bypassing my logic. It's very crafty that way. And so I wouldn't think about the process and just immediately jump in. Oh yeah, we're going to stop somewhere on the way home. And I just want one nip. I'm telling her, just one nip. And she's like, no. So I walked away and I ended up in the ice cream aisle, and I pulled out one of the keto ice creams, had it in my hand. I literally stood there for about 5 minutes, and I just kept looking at it and looking at it. And I was very, very close, but I don't think I would have walked out with it. I'm not sure. I put it in the freezer, and I was like, I need to get out of this store. I just have to get out of this store. And so I went, got her, finished up whatever we were supposed to get, and we left, and never went to, she wasn't going to let me anyway, but never went to get a schnapps or anything. And later on in the day, it was like, I was trying to analyze why. I'm like, why did my mind go there? It's like, why, if I have a moment, start thinking, oh, I'll get this at Dairy Queen, this at Taco Bell, this here, this there, knowing I'm not going to do it. But why did my mind go there? And immediately I recalled what had stressed me earlier in the morning. And the stressor is what triggered it. And it's, I can't believe how my mind went around the normal go-tos. And and brought that about. But it was like, okay, that's my stressor. Oh, okay, I'm fine. And I'm like, nope, not doing it, not doing it. And my brain was fine after that because I acknowledged what it was and let it go. Had I been new to carnivore, that wouldn't have happened. I would have, the ice cream would have been in the cart, the schnapps would have been there, plus probably half the grocery store, you know. But because I've healed, because I'm learning you have to develop different coping skills, you know, and when you do that, it, because like I've said this before, when you have these triggers, for me, it's stress, it's some kind of emotion that's not being met. It's not a craving. I'm not going for something because it's a craving. I'm going because I need to bury what I'm feeling. And so it's not a matter of, I mean, I can eat as much of the good stuff as I want. That feeling's not going to go away unless I've dealt with, you know, in a different way, that emotion, or have a different coping skill, whatever it may be. And so in that moment, it was fine. It scared the hell out of me, you know, while I was in it. But then once I got out of it, I was able to analyze what it was and be like, oh, okay, I'm fine, you know. And that's why I tell everyone, it's like, please, 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 different coping skills, you know, when you're, you know, past the sugar cravings. Because in the first couple of weeks, you have to get past those. And that's, you know, eat all the meat you want because it's going to stop them. And then after that, when they start rising to the surface, you know, as you're healing, it's like you have to do something different than what you've always done. Otherwise, your go-tos, if that go-to doesn't change, it's like you're going to end up in a binge.
Yeah. I find that I don't have to mess so much with the coping skill stuff because I truly don't feel like my binging has been related to emotional stuff at all. So for me, when I was first carnivore and I was having cravings, just like you said, it was just a matter of eat all the fat and all the meat until you're full. And then you're not going to, well, you're still going to want sugar, but you can control it. And now it's not, if I were to have some kind of an urge, I don't have to say, okay, well, I'm just going to go eat 2 pounds of bacon, so I don't eat that. Now it's just like, oh, this is an urge. I just dismiss it. Although I so rarely even have them now. It's like once you say no to it so many times, you stop having it, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
This is a good time to switch into the butter thing because somebody asked a question. Jessica asked, do you eat 1 stick of butter per day? Will it make you lose or gain weight? Brown butter with bacon is my favorite. So I think you have more to say on this topic, so I'm going to go first and then turn it over to you. So yeah, there's a little bit of conflicting information out there about if eating fat makes you fat. Generally, I think the answer is no. I think actually a high-fat diet really helps to lose fat. But after nutrition experience and the experience of others around me, I think you can eat all the butter you want. Now, however, you can overeat anything. I mean, if you're just stuffing your face, now at first you may need to stuff your face so you're not binging on non-carnivore foods. But over time, that should stop, and you should have a good signal of when you're full and when you're hungry and honor that. But I personally eat probably between a half stick of butter and a full stick of butter a day right now because I am purposely on a high-fat diet. But I am not one of those who just eats the stick. That grosses me out. I can't do it. So it's in my food or on my food. And I did make some brown butter bites for this trip, and I like them all right, but it's still like eating butter to me. So I would never just eat a pound of them and just feel like it's dessert. That does not happen for me. But the things that do make me a little bit, not bingey, I don't want to use that word because it's not a binge, but the things that make me like a little uncontrolled and I want to eat more are jerky and pork rinds.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I froze. Okay. You go.
Just a little bit. Yeah, the butter bites. The first time I made them, I used salted butter, and that's what triggered me, I guess. I'd never had them before. I wondered because people said they're like caramel, and I'm like, do I want to do this? And I put it off for a long time. Um, but I made them. They triggered my sugar addiction. They triggered my binging. I ate the entire batch, and was like, nope, I cannot make those again. And it's too bad because I'm like, it's a good way to get fats in. However, the next day on a meeting, there was a woman that chimed in and said she had the same reaction. But she went and made a huge batch and just kept eating and eating and eating till she was sick to death of them. And so I thought, is that even possible? And it was a risk I took because those I'm telling you, that day, the next day, all I could think about were butter bites. I didn't care about meat. I didn't care about anything good. It was the same mindset I had before. So it scared me, but I was like, I need to figure this out. And so I made some. Only the next day, all I could taste was salt. When I first had them, nope, they tasted sweet. They were caramely, like the texture. And the next day, it was like, making them, or 2 days later, it was salt. That's all I could taste. Didn't want them, didn't care about them. And it's been that way ever since. And I'm thinking that day, my body must have needed salt because I didn't taste salt in it. I must have needed fat. And so my body took it all in, but it didn't need more than that. And now even if I have them, and I've made them without the salted, and it's just like butter. It's like you said, it's not something, it doesn't tempt me at all, and it's kind of blah, you know. But as far as butter, too much butter, I think you're right on that. I do about a half a stick, maybe a stick of butter a day. It depends if I'm eating meat bars. Now, the meat bars, there's a lot of tallow in them, and butter bites. I will probably go over the stick. Maybe it's 2 sticks or 3. I don't know. But I do find my body wants more protein than it does fat. So when I do over, really, because the meat bars, you can tend to just eat them all down. And it's a lot of fat, and I'm okay with it. I don't like get sick. I mean, I was getting a headache before, but my body just wants the protein. And some people body need the fat. And I think because I'm 21 months in, Moto has healed enough and the hormones have healed enough that I don't need the huge amounts of fat, but I do need the protein because my muscles are still building. You know, they atrophied for years because of the sciatica, and now they're building, so I need the protein. But there are a lot of people that need the fat because, especially in the beginning, because it will help you lose the weight. It will balance your hormones and satiate you, and you need to balance your hormones. And I'm going to tell you what I was told as far as the fat, because it's not a fat in, fat out kind of thing. Your body's protective mechanism is to store toxins in the fat cells. Okay, it's to protect your organs, to protect your body, and it will do this. Okay, and especially if the liver's not working well enough to filter it out, if you got fatty liver, it's like it's all going in the fat cells, and your body is not going to let go of that fat until it feels safe. So you have to give it enough of the healthy fats, and in a little bit of time, depending on where your body is at, it will let go of the other fat. Now, I didn't understand this in the beginning, and what Coach Adek again told me that she explained it in this way, and then I finally understood. And I was still scared. I didn't quite get it. But 2 weeks in of eating, I think it was 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter a day, which I had never done, my hair loss stopped. And I knew right away, I went, that's a hormonal thing, that's an inflammation thing, and it's better. I said, I'm doing the right thing, you know, and then the weight just started coming off again. So it's not going to keep the weight on you. It's going to help you get rid of it. And then if you're closer to your goal, you're metabolically, you're better metabolically, then maybe you can lower the fats. You probably don't need it as much, but I'm not saying low fat by any means. It's still high fat, but just maybe not, a pound of butter. You know what I mean? That makes sense?
Yes, it does. And we got lots of questions and comments that are really about the same thing. So I want to read them off and then let's discuss. Am I unfrozen at the moment?
Yes,
Okay.
you're good.
Okay. So Melissa said she's been putting off trying carnivore ice cream because she's nervous it'll trigger her to start binging. And then Melody said carnivore cheesecake and ice cream trips her up every time, and it does make her gain weight. Wait. And it does make her gain weight. Maybe she's saying it doesn't make her gain weight, but she'd rather eat that than eat sugar again. Okay, it does. Cheesecake and ice cream trips up Melody. It makes her gain weight, but she's okay with it because she's not eating the sugar. And then a question from Missy Nikki, what are your replacements for sugary drinks? This is my weakness. So I have found a similar situation where when I eat things that are meant to be a non-carnivore food, like carnivore cupcakes, carnivore ice cream, carnivore waffles, my brain is like, why isn't this sweet? Like a waffle, why is there no syrup? Or why is this ice cream not sweet? Or why is this cupcake like tastes like milk because it's made of cream? And so it does open up this thing inside of me where I'm like, ooh, I could really use some maple syrup. And so I have to be really careful with that stuff too. And so my advice about replacing sugary drinks is don't.
Right.
At first, I tried to do flavored electrolytes, which are really tasty, but then I would spend my day seeking out these flavored electrolytes because it was so tasty and delicious, and then I would also crave other sweet foods. So it's just you've got to break up with it, and then like we are never ever ever getting back together kind of break up. And you're gonna have to white knuckle it for like 2 to 4 weeks, just get through it. And then you won't have those urges anymore because you only have so much self-discipline. You can only resist for so long, and eventually you're going to give in. So you've got to do something that's going to get rid of those urges altogether. Would you agree with that, Sally?
Absolutely. I was a sugary drink person. It is absolutely a tough one, but I only drink water. I don't never liked coffee, so that wasn't an issue, but I drink water. And I have made the fatty lattes, but they make me want to add a butterscotch sweetener to it to make it like a sweet drink. So I'm not like I'm steering clear a little bit until, unless I have better control and just don't have them. But that's more protein and fat. Okay, that gives you those kind of things. But sweeteners, sweetened drinks, no. And the thing is, once you're away from it long enough, and you're right, about a month or so, it's like you're not, I mean, you'll have the mental craving of it, the mental memory of what that felt like drinking it or how you felt drinking it. And that part you'll miss, but it's a mourning process. And with any sugar, any sweet, it's like you mourn the loss of it. It's like a friend, and once you do that, then you're free. And we can't express enough the mental freedom that you get from carnivore, from being just pure, being, getting rid of the sweeteners, just drinking water. There is nothing like it. And I was the worst kind of sugar addict. You have no idea, or maybe you do. And for me to go from that to where I am and not even blink to go get something, anyone, anyone can do it. But it takes, you have to mourn that loss because it is a loss. And then you get through it and then you're free. I want everyone to be free in that way. And not only that, you think clearer. You start seeing things, people for who they are, things for what they are, the medical industry, the food industry, all these things all of a sudden become very, very clear.
Yeah. Missy Nikki is kind of freaking out in the comments. So a couple
Oh
things
no.
to share. So again, we don't want you to replace your sweetened drinks with another sweetened drink. But there are some options that might help you. Honestly, this is crazy, but just sipping hot water, it feels different than regular water, and it feels a little bit like a treat. I know that's crazy. But also, yes, Natalie asked if I drink unflavored electrolytes. I do. Now, that doesn't solve anything because it doesn't taste good. It actually tastes a little soapy to me, but I do it for other reasons. And I drink unflavored mineral water, sparkling water. So the mouth feels a bit different. That feels a little bit like a treat. You can put a lime wedge or something on the cup, and then it looks pretty, and you can kind of have the scent of the lime. Maybe that helps a little. And then sometimes in the evening when I'm feeling a little cravey, but I don't want to eat again, I'll make bulletproof water, which I just do it with boiling water, a tablespoon of butter, even better if it's browned butter, and about a quarter teaspoon of salt. And you can put that in the blender or the NutriBullet, and it makes it real foamy like a latte. And then just sip it slowly. It is not sweet at all, but it does feel a bit comforting. But also, you want to be aware of when you're using food for comfort and try not to do that. So maybe those ideas will help you a little bit, Missy.
Yeah, hopefully. I know I do in the winter. I even fill up my the container. It's like a stainless steel container that I usually fill with cold water in the hotter months. I fill it with hot water in the colder months, and I will sip on that throughout the day because there's just something about it that makes it a little bit different and feels better. And maybe it's just because it reminds you of a warmer drink. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually a couple people made a couple other suggestions that are good. Melissa suggested warm bone broth, and Mary Lee suggested bone broth with butter. So again, those are both options that are not sweet, not mimicking something sweet, but are good options that are different than water.
The trying brown butter.
Yeah, so if you guys have any other questions, we have probably 15 more minutes if needed. This has been a great chat, so thank you all for being so interactive and sticking around. Oh, my friend Alfonso's. Oh, you see that? Yes, that's very nice of him.
I can see, yeah, I can see it's rolling. I just can't see, questions or anything.
So I
No,
think.
this has been
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say this has been fun. It's fun getting into it and kind of saying, how we failed miserably and pulled ourselves out of, the black hole to heal.
Yeah, I think it's invaluable because we can help other people to avoid our mistakes or to say, hey, I know you're sucking at this. We sucked too. Not everything is rosy carnivore butterflies because that's what you often see on social media. And so, hopefully our experiences help. We do have a question. Let me pull it up here. Are teas and herbal teas not allowed is the question. So technically tea and coffee are not carnivore. They're both from a plant. I do drink coffee some, mostly decaf, but not because of carnivore, just because I don't think I need the caffeine. So I think it's use your personal judgment, but certainly I would recommend going 30 or 60 days without it. And then if you want to add it back in, then you'll have a baseline to know if it's affecting you in a negative way, and then you have more reason to get rid of it. But if you want to be really dogmatic, technically, no, it's not allowed. Do you have any thoughts on tea?
Well, when I very, very first started, but this is before I gave up sweet completely, I used Harney and Sons cinnamon tea. And it's sweet on its own because it's got orange cloves in it and stuff. And you didn't need any sweetener with it, but it does say natural flavors. So I look back now and I'm thinking it was probably sweetened. But it pulled me through some days. It was comforting, and like if I was alone or feeling lonely or whatever, it's like I would just, make a cup of tea and it was fine. And another thing, if it's something that's going to get you through, and I'm not talking sweetened anything, I'm talking just a tea. if it's something that's going to get you through the first few weeks of getting rid of sugar, by all means do it. And then you can slowly wean those things out, because, you know, a lot of people don't even want those things later. You know, they're just like good with water, they just feel better, and your taste buds change. Like I used to season everything I ate, and now it's like Renman salt and I'm good. It just, everything has changed. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, the taste buds change so dramatically, so where you just enjoy the flavor of the food. Marilee asked, are we both on the 80/20 protocol? Do you find it hard not eating the extra protein we are used to? I am doing that. I've been doing it for a little over a month, and overall it's great and I really like it. But yes, it's hard not to eat all the protein, especially with my evening meal. I'm so used to just devouring a pound of ribeye. And so it's hard not to do that. But, you know, I have big
Yeah.
for why I'm doing it. And so I just am doing it anyway. And it's fine. And I'm getting plenty of fat. So that's delicious too. And I'm staying plentiful. Sally is not doing it. If you want to share kind of more what you're doing,
No.
your thoughts about that.
No, I I do have a lot of fat. I have not, well, I did up it with the butter, that, like what I told you earlier. But like when making the meat bars, good Lord, there's a, I mean, a lot of fat when I eat those. But I also eat a lot of protein. My body just needs the protein. I can't, even if I go and have a ton of the meat bars or brown butter, whatever, it doesn't fill me. Fats do not satiate me. I do not know why, but protein does. And I should say probably the protein and the fat combined. But I will still have a ribeye. I try to eat the meat first now, because otherwise I'm eating just a ton of meat bars, and then I'm still going to go and eat the ribeye. Whereas if I eat the ribeye first, I'm not going to eat as much of the meat bars, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's okay either way because it's all healthy. Um, but I look at, I'm like, I am consuming, you know, half a pound of tallow with this, and then I'm still going to go eat the ribeye or a 1 pound burger. I've made those, you know, but it's all.
Yeah. Jalen for Kids asked, how do I get started when meat sounds yuck to me? I know I feel this because I'm deep into sweet, but I want to stop, and when I buy the meat, it sounds yuck. So I think that's fish, things that you can tolerate and not feel like you're force feeding yourself something disgusting. But the other thing is you've got to get through that white knuckling period to get rid of the sweet. You've got to get through that, or you may never get off this cycle. Any other
Well,
thoughts, Sally, on that?
yeah, what I've found with this is you buy the meats that you like first. Don't try to just eat all beef or whatever just because other people do it. It's like find the meats that you like, make those, start those. Because once the sugar is out of your system, you will have a taste for other things. I rarely ate meat before. I wasn't a vegetarian or anything. I just literally lived on sugar. Very little protein, if any, for months at a time. But it destroyed me. It destroyed my entire immune system. I did not eat a lot. I mean, my son-in-law would make steak, you know, he'd make a ribeye, and he makes a good ribeye. And I'd have maybe this much, just 3-4 ounces, and I was fine. I'd eat all the other things that went on the plate. I didn't eat very much meat at all. And so I couldn't imagine doing carnivore, but I was like, this is what's healing people with Hashimoto. So I'm like, I have to find a way. And the thing is, I also do the fasting. And when you're fasting, by the time it comes time to eat, it's like you're ready. And the food, I actually look forward to, the way I used to look forward to getting home and eating cheesecake or, you know, Cadbury chocolate, whatever. It's like now I look forward to the steak I'm going to make, or the burgers, or the burger bites, or all those things I really look forward to, which blows my mind because I would never have pictured that I would be looking forward to eating meat. But it does come. And if you're not eating all the other stuff, it comes. And then you start looking forward to the things you can have. But it has to become something where these other things are no longer an option. Because as long as they're an option in your mind, you're not going to be fully invested in, what you're going to eat, and it's going to mess you up.
Agreed. That's the thing. You've got to get rid of the option. It's going to take a while, a couple weeks at least, but get rid of that option. Somebody asked, what about a squeeze of lemon in the water? I don't, let's not split hairs. It's probably not that big of a deal, but I don't do it. I think adding a squeeze of lemon is also like, ooh, what if I just add a little sweetener and make this a lemonade? So it's a little
Yeah.
bit of a bumpy path, so I don't do it. But if that's the thing that helps you to stay carnivore, then don't, accept good at the expense of perfect. I don't know the saying, but go ahead and do it if that's what you want to do. Sally, do you have any thoughts on that?
Just a little. Um, in the morning, it's like 16 ounces of warm water, and I add iodine to it because my iodine levels did drop. And with Hashimoto, that can happen. So I make sure I'm on top of it. So, but the thing is, the iodine in the water really doesn't taste good to me. So I put a little bit of lemon juice in that. And I used to do it the whole beginning of carnivore, the first 8 months, because I knew it was something that supposedly would help flush out the liver and the kidneys. And I didn't know a whole lot about carnivore at the time. I just knew that that was a big thing. Plus, there was certain teas that would help do that too. And so I would make literally 50-ounce vats of these teas, and I just combine them all together to flush out my system. And lemon was part of that. But I literally only add a little bit so I'm not tasting the iodine. And for anyone who's jumping on the iodine wagon, I recommend testing your levels first to see if you need it. Because if your body is not metabolically healthy, it can't, like you hear people, you can't overdose on iodine because your body's just going to flush it out. Well, if your kidney and liver are working correctly, if your body is working correctly, yes, it'll flush out excess. If it's not, like mine wasn't in the beginning, you're going to build up iodine. And if iodine levels go high, it's going to hurt your thyroid. So it's a really touchy thing with iodine. And your thyroid needs iodine. It does. But if your level drops, that's the time when you supplement. I personally wouldn't do it unless that happens. I know everyone's jumping on the bandwagon and doing it, but I would test first just to see where your level is. So I just wanted to put that out because I mentioned iodine. And I don't want people going,
Yeah.
oh, let's, have iodine. Because it's not necessarily a miracle cure if your body doesn't need it.
Great advice. Amy Bailey said, the holidays and temptations are making her nervous. So what I recognize in that is you giving yourself the option to eat them. So you're nervous, you won't be able to control yourself. So between now and Halloween, I guess, practice not giving yourself that option. If it's not an option, it's not going to be as tempting. And so one thing to mention on that frame of mind is if you're new at carnivore, just saying forever for the rest of my life I'm not going to have any of that anymore is probably too overwhelming, and that may make you not want to be a carnivore at all. So I don't recommend doing that. If you're new in the last couple of months, then pick a time frame of 30 days or 60 days or till Thanksgiving, whatever, that you're going to go 100%. You're not going to give in to any cravings for sweets. You're going to really, really do this. And then if, let's say you choose Thanksgiving as your time frame and you get to Thanksgiving and you still want it, okay, you're allowed to make your choices on Thanksgiving Day. But if you can get all the way to Thanksgiving without any cheats, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be feeling good and say, I'm going to stay carnivore on Thanksgiving. So that's my advice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's an option in your mind. That's why you're struggling with it. As soon as I took the option away, but I'm different. I am all or nothing. I look 2 million years ahead, so which is not a good thing. But for me, it's like it's either I'm having it or I'm not having it, and so it had to go. But that was what changed everything. So if you can make it 30 days, it's like you're more than likely going to keep going. I know someone asked about the iodine. I test every 3 months. Just
Hmm.
because Hashimoto, I test selenium, iodine, the antibodies, and all the different thyroid stuff.
Okay, so there's a few more questions. We'll answer those, and then if you have any additional questions, we'll post the replay right after this. So ask them in the comments down there, and then we'll answer them. And like we mentioned before, too, we have this Binge No More on Carnivore Facebook group if that interests you. So as far as questions, first of all, Melissa said she was never a big fan of meat. She rarely ate it, and now she craves it. So proof to, once you stop eating the crap, you want the good stuff. And then Natalie asked Sally, how long do you fast?
I built my way up. I went through the steak and butter gain program for feasting and fasting, so I learned how to fast nourished. I have to preface it with that because when I used to fast before, I was doing it unnourished, and so it was slowly hurting my body. So now, at the point I'm at, I mean, I've been doing this a year and a half, but minus the middle where I, lost my mind. I fast Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I eat OMAD Tuesday and Thursday, and two MADs Saturday and Sunday. But during the week, they're literally 48 hours in between, and then the weekend. But I built up and created that schedule because that's what fits my life at the moment. I did go through the whole program, and it was very different. Sometimes it would be like every other day, the 48s, for a week and a half, and then 5 OMADs, but my body just didn't like the OMADs every single day like that. It was too much. So I kind of switch it around a little bit, but I do eat a lot when I eat on my eating day. I make sure my body is very well nourished before going into another fast. And I will do 72s at times, but they're effortless because my body's nourished. And that is really, really important.
Okay, the last question is a hard one. Amy Bailey asked, how do you get past having to cook for family that aren't carnivore? Any tips? I don't know. That's hard because I don't have a family. And my dog, I make her carnivore too now. So I don't deal with this at all. Sally, if you have any advice, I'd love to just turn that over to you.
When my family was here, before they all grew up, I'm the person buying the food. So I can't control what they do outside the house, but I was the person buying the food. And so I bought, at the time it was keto. So I would buy keto foods and I would have those things available. I didn't limit them at all, but I would have fruits. I never had soda or anything like that, but there was fruit, there were vegetables, and they ate, what was in the house. They ate what I made. And if they had stuff outside the house, they did. I wasn't gonna, make it a crazy thing. And I really didn't want, and I know I did this, I talked way too much about dieting or weight loss and where they could hear it, and that's not a good thing. But I hear a lot of people talking about this, and what I do about the family, it's like, well, they have to have the snacks. It's like, no, they don't have to have all that carby stuff. And if you're going to put that in the house, then yeah, you're probably going to struggle with it. I'm lucky enough here, like Jen is, like we live alone, so I just buy meat and fats and stuff. And I know that if I ever meet someone one day, they're going to have to be carnivore too, because I'm not going to have carbs in the house. I mean, I can handle vegetables in the house, but I'm not going to have anything else because that's going to hurt me. So that makes it a little tough. But with family, you're in charge of the groceries. You're in charge of what you put in your house. And I think when you see the benefit it's giving to you, you're going to want everyone that you love to have that same benefit. I know for me, it's like, I put it out there. I don't preach it. I try not to do that. I will talk about it, but I don't like preach it because people, they want to hear that, or they're not in a place to hear that. So I just kind of try to be the example. And I mean, even my daughter, she said to me once, she goes, she watched everything heal things that we thought I'd have for life and that were destroying me. She's like, I really, really wish I liked meat because she'd do it,
Mhm.
but she's more keto and she writes keto cookbooks and that kind of thing. So, and that's okay too, because it's still healthy, you know, but with your kids, you're in control of this. And I think when you see the healing benefit and you experience the healing benefit for yourself, you're going to want that for your kids. And then you're going to make that decision and you're going to change things. I mean, you're the only one that can do it.
Yeah. Um, there are a couple of carnivore accounts just off the top of my head that they sometimes share what they make for their kids and their family. One of them is it's Courtney Luna. One is the Contoured Carnivore, and then gosh, there was another one that I really wanted to mention and I can't remember. But my friend Serena wrote on here, her family still eats carbs. You just have to decide that you are not eating it. So, maybe it's not as easy as just deciding how they're going to eat, but still allowing them the things that they want, but just having made that decision is out of the question for you. And I wish if I can remember some of the other accounts, I'll put them in the comments below the replay. Somebody said Judy Cho. She must share some information like that about feeding her family. I know her husband's not a carnivore. I've heard him say that. And I don't think her kids are fully either. Oh, and Kelly Hogan. Her kids
Yeah.
are very carnivore-ish, but not completely. And so those accounts might be helpful for you. So we've got to wrap up today. Thank you so much for being here, for your interaction, for your questions. This is such a joy for us, and we're really looking forward to the next time. We will post the replay here in just a few minutes, and we'll be happy to answer any more questions that come in the comments down there. All right. Anything else, Sally?
Nope. Just thank you all for being here and for the questions and just keeping all this alive just so we can help more people.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye.